Marketing Podcast is brought to you by Esther of IPA Group, bringing premier online promotion to your business.
And Melanie of Stomp Social Media Training, who empowers business owners to manage social media and marketing for themselves.
And welcome back to another episode of the Monday Morning Marketing Podcast. Today we're joined by Anna Skipwith, founder of HelloSocial.media, and we're talking about going viral. Now, that's no mean feat. I mean, hands up, who has wanted to go viral? Or who's been asked by clients to go viral? Yeah. The hands are up. The hands are up. Admit it. Admit it. So, Anna, explain to us how you went viral.
So back in 2019, I took a photo of some of my friends' dogs at our local polling station for the general election. And that was because I run a local Instagram account for our local community. And so it was natural to have a picture of our dogs at polling stations. It had become a bit of a tradition, kind of UK-wide. And while I was doing it, someone behind me snapped the pictures. Snapped the dogs, and it appeared, it was someone actually from Getty. It was out in public, so that's fine. And it got into the press. So that got me thinking, actually, maybe this could go kind of beyond just our little local Instagram account. So in 2021, I got myself a bit more organised. Same scene, same polling station, a lot of the same dogs. And I made sure I was a bit more organised, put it straight on Twitter with the hashtag dogs at polling stations. I ran home from the polling station, and by the time I got home, which was kind of 5 minutes, it had got an awful lot of likes, and impressions had got to, 1,000 or something, and I was a bit taken aback. I decided I was going to kind of reply to all the comments and really practice what I preach about engagement and, engaging with people who take the time to make a comment. And then a couple of journalists got in touch, and it was picked up by the press, and it ended up on TV, all very, very exciting. So that was great. So I did it again, I think it was 22 for the local elections, then earlier this year for the local elections, and then again for the general election on the 4th of July. And this time I was sort of even more organised. I wasn't expecting it to go viral because I thought, well, it's a very similar scene. Everyone's seen that before. They'll want to move on to something new. But I tagged a few journalists, well, not really journalists, but kind of at BBC News and so on. And again, it got picked up. And I ended up talking to a BBC journalist who wrote a piece about it. And it ended up on ITV London as well. So I never expected either of those photos on either year to go viral. But I did do those kind of little things to help it along. But each time, or both times, it was an absolute surprise. It's always a surprise. And that is part of the challenge of what you do next.
Yeah.
Because you are kind of, it's not in your routine.
So you've managed to find the nice balance of relevance, weight, and timeliness. It was a methodology that you saw work quite accidentally the first time. And you recognised it and you set it up in motion for events coming up afterwards. So how hard or how easy do you think that would be to replicate for other instances? Because, we've got a very large range of businesses who are listening to us today. So how would they recognize what works? And if they don't recognize it, can they create it?
Yeah, so that is a really interesting question, because for me, it's only happened in this one kind of situation. So I think things that have helped is certainly it was very timely. So it was a big news day. It was highly relevant to the day. It certainly the first time in 2021, it was people were commenting that it was a very beautiful picture, which I have to say is largely down to luck. So, I think a good image along with the timeliness is really important. I think careful tagging helps.
Right.
So I was a little bit reticent to tag because a couple of elections ago, I tagged my local MP, and then it went viral, and I was very conscious that she got every comment coming through on her busy day as well. But this time, the BBC journalist who interviewed me started off by saying, "Thank you for tagging us, because we are on the lookout for stories today." So on election day, they're not allowed to talk about what's actually happening sort of in the election in terms of what the outcome might be. So they are looking for a lot of space to fill. So that's why she was pleased. So I think careful tagging to highly relevant people helps as well. But then also, if it does start to build, then what I was doing was replying to each comment, in a nice, friendly way. That will only help the algorithm. I did do it because I genuinely wanted to, and I was getting nice comments. So it's nice to sort of start that conversation. It was both times it's been a truly happy experience, and I've felt like it's been a really happy part of social media. But that aside, actually responding and engaging is going to help it get kind of put out to even more and more people. So I think people can do that and try and kind of build that momentum as well.
Because it's interesting, you were saying there that you replied positively to every message, but was every message to you a positive one? Were they all super nice? Because elections and polling are polarizing, to say the least, in any country. And even though you've got the cute dogs, and we all know social media is all about dogs and cats, but how do you reply?
Maybe that will be next.
Maybe cats at polling station. I did see a chicken at a polling station as well. That just randomly. Anyway, how do you reply positively to the negative comments?
So this is one of my favourite aspects of what happened. So I did have a few negative comments, and they were centred mostly around dog safety. So I had a few people saying, really, can I go back to what I was saying before about how to go viral? So
yeah, of course.
One thing about this most dogs at polling station photos are of one or maybe two dogs. Naturally enough, people take their own picture of their own dog, and this one was a group. So I think the other kind of thing is to see if you can find a slightly different angle to what other people are doing in whatever your industry, whatever the day is about. So the fact it was a group of dogs, I had a few people commenting, two things really. One was people are being irresponsible, leaving their dogs outside the polling station. And so with that, I went back to them. There is a problem with dog theft. We all know that. And actually, back in 21, around where I live, it was probably bigger than it is now. So I went back and I explained, look, all the owners actually were there. They're just out of shot. Those dogs weren't abandoned at the front of the polling station. And I was there taking the photograph as well.
Yeah.
So the nice thing was, I probably half those, there weren't many, maybe 10 out of a few hundred comments. But the nice thing was, probably half those people came back and commented again and said, oh, thank you so much for explaining.
So that helped the boosting of the post and the reach.
Yeah,
because there was more.
It did. Yeah, absolutely. The other comment I got, I think once actually in 21 was, isn't it stressful for the dogs to all be together? So there I could go back and honestly say, actually, those dogs all know each other. And also the whole thing took about 4 minutes. And again, I got people coming back and saying, thank you for explaining. So yes, that's good for the algorithm. It's good engagement. I wanted to balance. I didn't want to ignore the negatives, because that would come across as, maybe only wanting to talk to the positive people and ignoring the negative comments. But, we can get philosophical about this, but I think it kind of showed me, actually, we all need to just talk to each other a bit more and explain our points of view. Because I explained reasonably what the situation was, people are like, oh, okay, I get it. Great. Thanks for letting me know.
Okay,
so again, another good side of social media.
So now we've understood how you've managed to go viral, and you've explained how you managed to manipulate the algorithm in your favour and in their favour as well. And interestingly enough, that hashtag that you mentioned is also a name of a handle online as well. So somebody's obviously found it very relevant, and has created a handle on X for it as well. So to the listeners, which is pretty global, how would you recommend people make an advantage out of doing this? So they've actually been very successful. So can they monetize it? Can they build recognition or authority? I mean, how do you make the most out of this opportunity?
So on the day itself, you need to decide whether you want to make, on the day itself, in terms of people using your photo, do you want to sell it and make money? Or do you want them simply to put in the credit, your handle, to credit you for the photo? So I never even considered making money from it. Partly, I'm not a photographer. It's not my business. Social media training is my business. But also I felt it was very much a kind of a community thing. Originally, I'd done it for my local community, for that Instagram account. And also probably about 10 of my friends were involved and their dogs. So I wanted to keep it just as a nice thing that's happened that we can all, look back on and little 15 minutes of fame kind of thing. So I made that decision. But what is really important is that people do credit you. Because, if you are suddenly on the BBC or anywhere, even on someone else's account, it's very, very important that is seen as your asset. I mean, it is your asset. So that's one thing, the credit, because that's good for your visibility, and it's kind of copyright law anyway. I don't know the ins and outs of copyright law, but it's very, very important. And actually also really important to follow it up if it's not done. even kind of by the really big guys. Don't be daunted by that, because you're not actually dealing with the big BBC, you're dealing with a staff member of the BBC if they don't credit you. And I should hasten to add, the BBC did.
Right.
Just using that as an example. But there were, and I'm not going to name names, but there were, in 2021, there were a couple of publications and one business that used the photo and didn't credit properly, which was
Right.
quite a surprise to me. And I did go back.
Can you do anything about it if they do that?
Well, so I went back and to them and asked them to credit me properly.
How did you hear of it? How did you? Because if you weren't tagged, how did you hear of it?
So, well, so I had lots of my friends were kind of eyes and ears all over the internet because, you know, I didn't ask them to, but they were all sort of very excited about it. And I kind of came across it with the hashtag as well.
Of course, yeah.
By using the hashtag, I could sort of come across it. And who knows, there may be ones that I missed. But crediting's really important. So that's kind of on the day. Beyond that, and what I didn't really do in 2021, although I told myself I should, I didn't kind of contact anyone about maybe doing a bit of a story about it.
Right.
Why didn't I do that? I think it was kind of a bit of lack of confidence, and I was back then I saw it was very much, well, you know, 2 days later it's old news.
True.
And this time I've kind of thought of themes that can come out of it that actually are more, you know, are, what's the word, green?
Evergreen.
Evergreen, thank you. Exactly, things we can all talk about. Yeah. So, you know, you can write a blog about it. You can maybe be invited onto a podcast to talk about it. So thank you very much. You know, I could, so what I haven't done this time that maybe I should have done, I could maybe talk to local press because it is also a local story and I'd like to keep it as a local story as well. So it really depends what the subject matter is, you know, and what the story around it is as well. And whether you can leverage that cool. to maybe tell a bit more about your own story.
So it's fairly easy to repurpose in that respect then. And it sounds like you're talking about it, you're going on podcasts, you're going on possibly on radio, maybe on the local news, in the local paper. So it is something that you can kind of cluster your marketing with. So let's say somebody says, oh, I really want this, we'll credit you. Can you also ask for money for that image?
I could ask for money for it. Whether anyone would pay or not, I don't know. I haven't gone down that route. But you know, certainly, sort of, if you're your own boss making your own decisions, then I don't see why you couldn't ask for money. But if you did that, I would suggest having some idea of, you know, what a sort of reasonable price tag would be. But again, I haven't gone down that route, so I wouldn't know, you know, whether if I did, whether I should be asking for 50 quid or 500 or or more. Who knows?
More. I mean, the dogs need fed, so I mean, I would base it on that amount. Now, you said at the start, like, so from 2019, you had nothing in place for what would happen if it did go viral, and then come 2021, then you had more measures. And you mentioned about tagging people and things, but what other things can people have ready for if you get contacted by the press or the newspaper, or, you know, what should we have to hand as business owners when people ask us for more information?
So that's a very good question. And it's actually stuff we should have anyway. Things like making sure your profile, certainly, if the photo or the video is on X or Instagram, or those profiles need to be absolutely up to date, and you should be doing that anyway. So this is just a good reminder. Also good to have just a very short sort of 50-word bio ready. Good to have a headshot ready. Again, these are things that ideally you would have anyway. So this time I was I was approached by a kind of agency, and they wanted a headshot of me with my dog, and actually I didn't have a great one, so we quickly had to kind of cobble something together at home. So you're not always going to be 100% prepared, but yeah, I would say headshot, quick bio, make sure your profiles are up to date. And also, in terms of kind of the crediting, be really clear in your mind where you want to be credited. Is it your X account? Is it your Instagram? Naturally, I'd say it's kind of wherever this photos or videos presented.
So, how about you explain how people can learn more about yourself, Anna, and about Hello Social? And do you have some download or some useful information that people can get from you that would help them with their, going viral in the future?
So my website is hellosocial.media. My Instagram account, which is where I sort of hang out the most in terms of social media, is also at hellosocial.media. Or I'm Anna Skipwith on LinkedIn, and on X I'm at Hello Social LDN at the end for London. I do have a blog on my website about going viral. And sometime during the summer, summer 2024, I'll be kind of writing an update to that, because I've had sort of further thoughts about this whole thing that we've discussed today. But most of what I do is social media and some digital marketing training. So I offer that to freelancers and small businesses.
I feel your passion.
And I love what I do. It's great.
Oh, it's the best job in the world.
What I'm not going to launch is a course on how to go viral in 3 easy steps.
Yeah, seriously. It's the hardest thing to do, isn't it? When a client says to you, I want to go viral, you're like, oh God, really?
Then it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But if anyone wanted to talk about, well, look, this situation's coming up and I think actually I've got a good chance, I'd be very happy to talk to them about how to get your ducks in a row,
or dogs.
Or your dogs in a row. I can't teach you how to get some dogs in a row. Maybe that's the next challenge. They're more of a bunch. But yeah, I'd be very happy to help people.
Wicked.
Get sorted.
Okay, well, thank you so much for coming on today, Anna. We really appreciate your wisdom, your experience, and for those of you that are listening who want to go viral, obviously contact Anna. Sorry.
I need to go and buy a magic wand first.
And so thank you so much again. We're going to be back next week with another podcast, but you know where to find us. You'll find us on all of our socials. You can visit our website. You can listen to all 4.5 years of our podcasts and listen to our award-winning podcast. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your boss. There's still lots to learn. So we'll be back very soon. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much for having me on.
So, going viral, Esther.
Oh, it's the easiest thing in the world, Melanie, don't you know?
I think we
She says sarcastically.
Oh, no, not at all.